I think I was thinking I could hire people to work for me in the digital agency, but then I didn't really think about how much money £250,000 would be until I was actually faced with the question. I don't think I remember, if not me, then who's the sort of person they're looking for, because I was someone who was actively trying to start a business. I've been working for myself around my full-time job. I worked 9 till 5, went home, went gym, worked till 2 in the morning every day. So I was the person, but I was just like, I still didn't expect to get through those rounds and get through to the finals, interview stages or anything like that. I was surrounded by a lot of people who were dressed a lot smarter than me, sounded a lot smarter than me. So yeah, for me, I don't think I really expected to get through the interview stages. I think I just thought, I'll give it a go. I tried saying yes to everything. I was trying to get involved in all new experiences. I still do that now, but back then I thought, why not? What's to lose? Everything to gain.
Thank you so much for clicking on this episode of The Millennial Entrepreneur. The ambition of the podcast is to show relatable stories from young entrepreneurs doing some incredible things to inspire the next generation, including you listening wherever you are. We've been doing this podcast for over 3 years and the ambition has not changed. The only thing that has changed is the scale of where we want to go. We want to bring on bigger guests for you guys to show more and more relatable and inspiring stories from young entrepreneurs across the world. The majority of you guys listening haven't subscribed to the podcast yet. All you have to do is click that subscribe button wherever you're listening on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and that will allow us to bring on bigger guests and ask the questions to them that you really want to hear. And it really is that simple. So thank you again for clicking on the podcast and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you today?
Yeah, very well, thank you. I know you had a very busy day, grinding away, and very, very glad to make time to get you onto the podcast. So I would love to talk about so many different things. I know, obviously, the elephant in the room is you were in The Apprentice a few years ago, and that's obviously like where a lot of people would know you from. But I would love to dig a bit deeper into your earlier life. So you obviously mentioned that you're a unorthodox entrepreneur. I would love to dig deeper into sort of like how that actually started when you were younger.
To be honest, buddy, I've always wanted to run something for myself. I was already looking at people who are running their own businesses, and for me, I thought this could be a path that's interesting. I'd met some successful entrepreneurs whilst working abroad. Those guys got the idea in my head that I could go out and find a way to do it myself. So for me, I decided I wanted to start a business. Not really that young, probably about 20, 24, 20, 23 I was at the time. That's not right. Sorry, I would have been at 20 actually, because I went to uni at 21. And then I went back to university and studied business. Yeah, so around 20 years old.
Well, how come you started around that sort of age and not younger, I guess?
Because I'd never really been around business owners, didn't really know it was a thing, never really met anyone that ran their own business. So yeah, and I remember in school there being entrepreneurship courses and like extracurricular things that I took, I got involved in, but they didn't really teach me anything. They didn't really inspire people to be business owners. I don't even think they really understood what they were doing. The teachers at school running those courses. So even though I'd been involved in some bits and pieces around my schoolwork, I still didn't really know that business was an option, that you could really start your own business. I remember hearing about someone running their own business when I was like 19. I'd come back to the UK and my friend, her cousin was running a business, and I was like, that sounds pretty cool. So he works for himself, and that was really weird to me. I'd never heard of that before, which sounds mad really, but just didn't ever come across my radar.
So that was the turning point, I guess, for you to realize that there isn't really, there can be something outside of that linear career path, and you can like actually start your own thing.
When I was abroad, I'd met some business owners that were on holiday, and I was working as a rep, and I was hanging around with those guys quite a lot of the time. And they were basically saying to me, yeah, you could do this. You can go and start a business. And I was like, holy shit, I never really thought about that. It's mental to think back that you don't know what you don't know. And at the time, I just didn't know that was an option. Just never been part of my world, which is crazy. When some kids grow up with their parents running their own business, it's normal to them. It's normal to me now. It's normal to everyone that I speak to now. But yet I know there'll be thousands of people out there that still don't realize that it's an option. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's certainly been like glamorized, I guess, like in certain, like more so than a few years ago, I would say, like running your own business and doing your own thing. Like obviously social media plays a massive role in that. And obviously like the TV shows that you were a part of. So do you think that's like a net positive? Do you think that's a good thing, like overall?
I think it's a good thing. I think it's also, it's a good thing in the sense that it opens people's eyes up to it. At the same time, I think it could be quite a bad thing because it almost I don't think everyone is supposed to run their own business. I don't think that's the way the world is. I think a lot of people can, but I don't think everyone's supposed to. Not everyone's supposed to be um, lacking sleep all the time and working for themselves. I think the problem is that it makes it look like anyone can do it and that it's easy, and that sets unrealistic expectations for a lot of people.
Mm,
And it also, I think a lot of young ones these days, they seem to think for some reason it's cool, like it's cool to run your own business or whatever, and it's just, I don't think that's how I ever perceived it, and I think it's a bit weird now that people do perceive it to be like a cool thing. It's almost like people
yeah.
want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a business owner, and so it becomes a lot more just pretending and blagging than anything. Which is you see that quite a lot at the moment, but I
Mm,
still think it's a positive because it helps people who are the right person and are that person that's gone, oh, actually this could be an option for me, and then they've actually taken it seriously and they've started knuckling down. Those are the ones that are actually benefiting from the new reach, I guess, and all this
mm.
glamorized attention.
Yeah, and that's my issue with, I guess, like the glamorization is that it really paints the picture that anyone can do it, and it paints the picture that which is true in a lot of but it does set unrealistic expectations, right? So it sets people up for failure and then anxiety as well, like mental health issues, especially when you're young and running a business. So a
Mm.
big thing of why we started the podcast was exactly for that reason, to show the realistic stories of people like yourselves. Um, so tell me, Lewis, where did the Apprentice come in your journey?
For me, I was working full time. Gone through uni, got a master's degree, and I was working my way up through the ranks in marketing. I'd started doing a bit of freelance work around my full time job, and then after a couple of years, I saw something in my inbox. It was like the Apprentice is like looking for new people. In my emails, for some reason, I can't remember why. I must have signed up for a notification, and I was like, well, actually, I've been freelancing for a few years now. I've got invoices that prove that I've been charging people money and I've been actually doing the work, and I've got output, which is like websites have been built and client reviews and all that sort of stuff. So I thought actually maybe it's right time now. I have the experience and knowledge, and I have been doing it for myself to try and go for starting my own business, because I still at this point thought you needed quite a lot of cash to start a serious business. So for me, it
Mm,
was about, okay, maybe I can get some investment and actually start a real business. So yeah, that's kind of why I applied. Hmm.
mm. And I guess we have had people from the Apprentice on the podcast before, not a ton, but I guess as a bit of behind the scenes, like, do you mind like spilling a bit of info around that? You must have done it already loads, but just a bit of detail.
I can't really remember much. I remember that when you apply, you go to multiple rounds of interview stages. My first interview stage, I actually didn't. I was going to go in there with a digital marketing agency, which is what I run now, obviously. But back then, I was going to go in there with that idea, and I actually only changed it when they asked me the question, "What would you do if you won 250,000 to invest in your business?" And I was like, "Well, I wouldn't need it for marketing because I can run a marketing agency without that. I actually do my travel
Mm,
company." So I remember having to go in, and they said, "Well, you can't apply unless you've got a business plan for it." And my business plan was related to digital marketing. So I went away, and in the 2 weeks that I had between then and the final interview stage, I had written a business plan for a travel company. So yeah, I guess you don't need to go in there with a plan. I didn't really have a plan. I just knew I wanted to start a business, and when they asked me the question, I was like, "Oh, well, travel is what I would use that money for," because I thought that's where you needed to have the cash.
for you applying, what was the sort of like motivation? Was it because you thought, you needed a ton of money in order to start a business? But if you went in with the digital marketing business, then obviously was it more like a personal sort of like learning experience?
I think I was thinking I could hire people to work for me in the digital agency, but then I didn't really think about how much money £250,000 would be. I remember being like, if not me, then who's the sort of person they're looking for? Because I was someone who was actively trying to start a business. I've been working for myself around my full time job. I worked 9 till 5, went home, went gym, worked till 2 in the morning every day. Um, so I was the person, but I was just like, I still didn't expect to get through those rounds and get through to the finals interview
Mm,
stages or anything like that. I was surrounded by a lot of people who were dressed a lot smarter than me, sound a lot smarter than me. So yeah, for me, I didn't really expect. I don't think I really expected to get through the interview
mm,
stages. I think I just thought, oh, I'll give it a go. I tried saying yes to everything I was trying to get involved in all new experiences.
Yeah.
I still do that now, but like, yeah, back then I thought, why not? Like, what's to lose? Everything to gain.
And how was it actually sort of day to day on the actual TV show?
I can't really remember, to be honest, mate. It was like 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I remember we were locked inside quite a long time. We couldn't really get out much. It was a bit like every day was a new challenge, or every day was something you'd never done before. So it was quite exciting in that sense.
No, that's all good. And then so talking about your new business, so your business Hustle, when did that come into so it was after the Apprentice, it was during the COVID time, right?
Yeah, so Hustle was started because I had lost my job because of COVID. I was starting a travel company, and I had a full-time job as a marketing director. I'd just taken a new role, decent salary, would pay for me to start my business, basically. And then when COVID came along, travel couldn't do anything with that. And then a few months later, I ended up losing my job because the company I was working for was quite new. And I thought, well, my options are, well, there's no options for me. I couldn't get furlough because the previous employer wouldn't put me on furlough, and the new one couldn't do that. And there was no sort of like funding available to sort of help. No one was hiring, so I just thought, well, I've been freelancing before. I can probably pick up some clients again. I just thought I'll get some clients and survive. And then it obviously went on for quite a long time. It was a couple of years, and each year I would just thought, we'll keep going. I always thought if I run out of cash, I'll just go and get a basic job somewhere. Just doing anything really. I didn't give a fuck. And then it sort of grew year on year. First year did really well. Second year it calmed down a little bit, and then this year it's picked up again. So yeah, I've got. It's going to continue growing, which is interesting. It wasn't really my plan. Wasn't really to keep it going. It was to survive COVID. But now I'm like, well, actually, we've got an interesting brand. We've got an interesting business. We've got a lot of experience and a lot of projects that we've completed. So why not take this up to the next level? Everyone says that it's different to anything they've seen before. So I guess now my thought process is, why not build this? This is a business, a couple of years ago, someone said to me, 1 in 10, I think it's like 1 in 10 businesses are like actually a decent idea and actually get attention. Hustle gets attention, and it's a very unique idea. It might be marketing, but there's no one really that does anything like us. So
There's new marketing agencies springing up every day, right? Like, so I guess, what does the word unorthodox mean for you, and like why is Hustle different in this environment?
yeah, so you're right. There's lots of marketing agencies springing up. I would urge anyone, by the way, who's thinking about working with a marketing agency, to look at who is running it and why they believe that they have the experience. So first off, look at people's experience. My experience was that I'd spent 8 years working in-house. I'd got a degree in it and a master's degree in it. And I'd noticed as I was going through the ranks that everything was quite safe. Everything was quite boring. Whenever I was in a meeting and I came up with a crazy idea, it was always sort of like championed. And I was coming up with these little strategies that were just, I was like, whoa, that's quite weird. We've never done that before. And then I'd do something and it would perform really well. Or I'd come up with these ideas or an advert or whatever, and they'd perform really well. We'd get loads more sales. And this was when I was working for the businesses. When I started working at agencies, the salespeople would take me with them to sell to their clients because I was really passionate about marketing. I was really excited about it, and I enjoyed coming up with ideas. And the sales guys didn't know what they were talking about in that sense. They just knew how to sell. They didn't know what they were selling or how to fix people's businesses. So I sort of applied those learnings to my business and went, well, if everyone's doing it this way, I'm going to do it this way. I understand that marketing is supposed to stand out. It's supposed to be unique. It's supposed to make people stop, stare, pay attention and go, wow, this is awesome. But 9 times out of 10, the marketing agencies and the marketing departments just don't provide that, right? I mean, it's probably more than that, I very rarely see a marketing advert on TV or hear something on the radio or see a billboard and go, fucking, that's awesome. Very, very rarely. The only times I see things that I think that's awesome. I think that's awesome. Dog squeaking. I think that's awesome. It's when it might be a social media piece of content that's just gone viral because it's really interesting and engaging. It might have been an advert at the time. It might have been a campaign, but it's really, really well done and it goes viral because it's actually awesome. It's really funny or whatever. That's the cool marketing, but it's so rare, you never see it. So I thought, what if my marketing agency would always consistently and every time try to do amazing and wonderful things, new things, different things, try tactics we've never done before. Every single time we talk to a client, we always pitch completely different ideas. We never do the same thing twice. Now, obviously, we run people's marketing departments for them, which is generating content and all that sort of stuff. So the tactics are the same, but it's the type of content's different, or the style of content, or the way in which we create the videos, or the ideas behind them, or when it comes to experiential campaigns. We'll sit with the client and go, here's 10 ideas that we think might be awesome. And every time we sit with a client, here's 10 new ideas. None of them are referencing the previous ideas. Like, they're always completely new and different. And I think that's the only way you can be creative. You can't, most agencies, what they do right now is they rest on their laurels. If you spoke to most of them, they probably do the same shit with every customer over and over and over again.
Yeah, they play it extremely safe.
Well, why would they change? Because that's what they know. They do it well. They've done it loads of times before. They've had great results for clients. Cool. But does that provide inspired creative campaigns and exciting marketing, or is it just the same shit with a different sort of cloak over it? And I think 9 times out of 10, that's the way it runs. There are some exceptions. There are some agencies that do some great stuff. I mean, it's very hard to find. I know this because when I'm looking for inspiration, I'll constantly look through campaigns around the world to see what I can find that I think, wow, that's amazing. And it's very hard to find that. And I would challenge anyone, by the way, who hears this to actually go on the internet and find a campaign that they've seen, that an experiential marketing campaign or a disruptive guerrilla marketing campaign that is absolutely amazing, and they think, wow, that's so cool, or how the hell did they come up with that? And if you try and find them, you will really struggle. But they shouldn't, because marketers are supposed to do that. Our agencies, the thousands of them, you've just said it yourself, there's thousands of us. So why is it so hard to find those exciting, amazing pieces of work? It's because most of the time what they produce is dog shit. So my agency, unorthodox, means being abnormal, being different, not conforming to the way they do things. I don't care about winning these bullshit awards that tell me that I've got the biggest, best creative penis in the world. I don't care. It's irrelevant. Whilst those guys are distracted doing all that stuff over there, I'm actually looking for the next thing, the most exciting thing, the creative thing, the thing that makes me innately feel proud, that I can show. I mean, I show my campaigns to my clients. Like today I went into the client office and they went, oh, Lewis, we saw the advert you made for that company in Bury, and it's only down the road, but they've seen it. And so we're talking about that. And I think that's exciting when things stand out to that people know, oh, that must be Lewis's thing, or that must be Hussel's thing. That's what I enjoy.
Would you mind providing like one cool example or like story just so people can like visualize this more?
Yeah, so let's try and think of a cool campaign that I've been looking at recently. I can't tell you the stuff that I'm working on because the idea is they're supposed to be kept quiet.
Maybe one from the previous clients.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about the advert we've just made so we're working with a local skip company. Here's the beauty in this, right? So this is a skip company that no one gives a toss about. I mean, why would you? They rent skips. No one really cares where they get a skip from. They just want a cheap skip. If they're builders, they want a skip. If they're a homeowner destroying the house and they can't be asked can't bother driving to the tip, they'll get a skip. So no one really cares. You just Google it and you look, or you put it on your Facebook and people recommend it. So we got this guy who he lives he serves a small area, 25 miles around Bury. So we thought, well, what if we make him the most well-known skip company in that area? Like, what if people thought he was that funny, that creative, that anytime when someone needed a skip, there's only one company they can think of. So that's what we've been doing with them. We do these adverts and we make them so weird and wonderful. And we do them creatively so that they get press, so that they get attention, so that they go viral, so that everyone talks
these
about
like billboard ads?
No, these are like just social ads.
Oh, social ads. Okay, cool.
So this last one we did was, I mean, if you get a chance, check it out. They're called M60 Skip Hire. Go on their Facebook, you'll see the advert. And, it starts off, it's like MTV Cribs, and then he introduces his skip yard and all the shit vehicles, He shows you around. He's called Tyson, so he's a play on the Mike Tyson thing. And like Mike Tyson's got a lion, our Tyson's got a donkey. We walk a donkey around, and then it goes to a goat, and then the goat's walking around, and then it goes to guys in mankinis running across the yard, and then it's like swimming. We turned one of the skips into a massive swimming pool. And then that went in the press, it was like local skip company creates a huge swimming pool. We had a DJ, we had a bongo drummer, we had girls dancing in bikinis, and this is for a skip company. And the thing is, we were giving the brand a personality. Now we could have just done an advert which says, looking for a skip, here's a skip that's low cost, cheap, reliable, whatever. But instead we just did this wild ass Ibiza style party, filmed it with loads of other stuff, like I said, animals and crazy things, people on the toilet trying to use the toilet and then walking in, and people running around in mankinis with the balls out, and just crazy stuff. And then we run it as an advert, but everyone remembers it. That advert is performing, I think on average, it's something like between 3 and 5% click-through rate is supposed to be good on social. Depends where you look, but that's kind of like the average I was looking at. I think at the moment ours is doing like 16, 17% click-through rate, which is like, I mean, what, I don't know, like 10, 10 times higher than we expected.
Yeah.
I think 1% is average, 3 to 5 is good. 16, 17% is ridiculous. And it's because people are watching it as content and they're clicking through to find out more about this skip company. And I reiterate the fact it's a skip company because who gives a shit about a skip company?
Yeah,
Why would you?
that's what I liked about the example that you gave, is that skips are just like so boring, right?
Exactly.
There's no, yeah, that's a really good example that you made.
So that's one from our campaigns, but there is all sorts of great stuff out in the world. Trying to think of some. I love stuff gone wrong. Like things where it looks like it's a mistake, but it's not a mistake. Like there was this cool campaign abroad where in America where, what the frick is it called? It's like Kool-Aid. I think it's called Kool-Aid, something like that. It's like this drink, and they basically made a huge frozen popsicle out of their drink. I'm sure it was called Kool-Aid. Anyway, and they put it in a lorry and they drive it to the city centre, and they're going to put this massive lollipop up in the city centre, and it's going to be like an attraction, and it's for frozen ice lolly. Obviously, it's really, really warm, so it goes in the lorry, melts in the lorry, and as they open the back of the truck, all this like liquid pours out into the street. The whole street's full of Kool-Aid. I'm going to Google this if it's Kool-Aid. Anyway, long story short is, it gets way more attention because this thing went wrong, yeah, and it spilled out everywhere, and it was all over the press, and it was all in the newspapers, and they were like, "Oh, it was an accident, but it means to do it." Of course, they meant to do it. They meant to spill that lollipop juice everywhere because it was going to get press, it was going to get attention. It was funny as hell. Like the doors open, everyone expects an ice pop there, and it went everywhere.
Yeah. A question I have, Lewis, is that, so yeah, these all sound fantastic. And I guess a lot of people that are listening, they either have their own businesses or think about starting their own businesses, and using these different strategies. And the skip example you used was a very good one because it showed that sort of any company can use these sort of like creative, disruptive, I guess, against the grain sort of marketing tactics. I guess for new businesses or ones that are established with like maybe lower budgets where they can't hire an agency, what's the sort of like way of executing on a strategy like this? Like, how do you come up with an idea like that? And then how do you execute?
Firstly, it was a 25-foot Snapple juice. There you go, Snapple. Have a look at it.
There we go.
How do you execute this? Or how do you come up with it? Well, do you know what? This is interesting. So I found now that clients will ring us up and say, we've got a party in 2 weeks and we want to celebrate our 10th birthday. We are a hotel. What would you come up with? And I'll go and meet them, sit down, get all the information I need to get. And as they're talking, sometimes ideas will just come to me. I'll be like, oh shit, that'd be so funny. Or rah, rah, rah. So I start jotting notes down immediately from the moment I hear it. Because I feel like a lot of the creativity is when you're not even trying, right? You ever got writer's block and you sit there trying to do something, you can't do it. And you have a shower and you come out of the shower and you're like, holy shit, that's a mint idea.
Yeah.
So like my brain works like that. So as they're talking to me, I'm listening, I'm sort of soaking up the information. I start jotting notes down from the very get-go. Sometimes some of the best ideas I have are like in that moment there and then. I'm like, whoa, this would be well funny. And I got to try and not tell the client because I want to make it look like I've done loads of work. So I keep it secret until I actually do that. And this took hours to come up with. But some of the ideas, I don't know, right? So I had this process where I'd seen this campaign, Coca-Cola wrapped. It was a concept. So it was like a bus wrapped in Coca-Cola, and every time the bus stops, it goes tss, and it was like that sound when you open a can of Coke. And that was the campaign. And I was like, how the fuck did someone come up with that? And I thought to myself, well, the only way they can come up with that is they must be looking at this holistically, objectively. So, for example, let's take hotel. Hotel. What does it sound like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What color is it? What is it? What emotions are attached to it? What do you feel like? You know what I mean? Like, what do people take there? So I start going through senses, smell, sight, sound, taste, and thinking almost backwards on the campaign. So I'm like, okay, so like suitcases are hard to drag and like, right. So could we do something to do with like when they turn up at the hotel, we have a reindeer with a sledge and it takes their luggage. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of stuff. I almost try and think creatively. So I don't start with the problem. I try and start with the association to the thing. And from that, like we're doing one for Halloween right now, and the rum brand, I won't tell you which one it is, but it's like really well known. I'm like, oh, it's Halloween, so it's got to be scary related, right? And it's going to match the theme of the holiday, but it's also going to match the theme of the product, and in this case, a bar as well. And like, how do we integrate that? So I start working around like, okay, well, where would this thing be? What location? where in the world, what part of history, and then you can get quite clever because you're not thinking rum and it has to be Halloween, so it's scary rum. Like, you don't think like that. You're thinking, oh, the bottle is shaped like this, so how would that work? Or it's made in this country, it's like made in Italy. So what's Italian that links to that? And what's scary in Italy? Do you know what I mean? So that's how
Yeah,
I think of stuff.
I guess digging deeper and questioning things that were kind of already like assumptions.
Yeah, I think the smartest campaigns are when you do stuff that links really well and it was totally unexpected. And people go like, shit, that's quite clever.
Mm,
That's how I sort of approach it. Like I said, sometimes the ideas just come to me immediately, like immediately within the minutes. Sometimes I'll be in the shower and I'll get out and I'll be like, holy shit, I need to write this idea down. Sometimes they're wild and like just not feasible. You're like, oh, I'm always doing a lot of Googling, like looking for, is it legal to can you ride in the back of a truck whilst inside a massive present, or is it legal to roll 3,000 golf balls down a hill with dildos and stuff like that, like just silly stuff. And my search history is just ridiculous. It always involves things like tanks, flamingos, dolphins, ducks, like just and because they start crazy and then you got to get them to reality. But yeah, I'm always like, what would catch my attention? How does it feel?
mm,
What's the sound? What's the smell? What does it taste like? Like,
mm.
and then link to that. You know what I mean? Because that's how I figured that person that bus concept must have. The only way you would figure out that the bus sounds like a can opening and have that connection is if you were looking at it holistically and going, what does the can of Coke taste like?
Yeah, those are two things that just don't go together, but like it's the creativity that matches them together,
They've
right?
looked at a can of Coke and they've gone, all right, it tastes sweet. It's got bubbles. It's
Yeah.
brown. It's you open it up and it goes whatever, and they've gone,
Like what,
shit.
and
What
then what
else goes
else
like that?
sounds like that?
Correct,
Yeah.
and that's where it's
Yeah.
really clever. But actually, it's a really simple link if you go through that
Mm.
process. And I'm not saying that is easy. That process is just what I do, but like I'm not saying that's easy. Once you do that, you might still have fuck all. So you've got to have creativity. You've got to be a bit wild, like in your imagination. You've got to be able to think, outside the box. The thing is, I feel like I was talking about this yesterday. Is I put all this effort into the marketing ideation, and I don't even think I need to, because I know that to beat most people's creativity, you don't really need that much effort. Um,
Do you think?
yeah, I really don't think you do. Like, look at some of the big agencies, look at some of their portfolios. Like, they're just crap. Like, the same boring stuff. Even John Lewis just does the same boring advert they spend millions on every year making for Christmas. It's not really interesting. You probably guess what the next one's going to be about. Like, the last one was about, what was it, the kid in the go-kart, something, and the one before that was the man on the moon or whatever. Like, they're always going to try and make you cry. They're always going to try and make it emotional. They're always going to spend a
Mm.
shitload of money doing an advert. Like, they don't change it up. I don't know. Like, yeah, that's just my opinion. Like Sky, let's take Skybox. The Sky channels.
Mm.
They always have the
Yeah.
same shit things in a shopping center with the same shit people with the same shit notepads trying to sell you the same shit thing everywhere you go in every shopping center. I don't know if it's there anymore, but like that's how it
No, it
is.
is.
That's their
I walked past
marketing.
one the other day.
They've been in it for years. They pay some company a shitload of money to make those stands for them, do the print, hire the staff, run the data, probably do the email marketing follow up, and it doesn't generate fuck all. In fact, you could probably walk through most city centers and avoid most of those stalls. You go to these exhibitions like a car exhibition, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds to build these stands, and then like it's just boring. And it's amazing
Mm.
like how many brands just pour the same money into the same boring companies with the same lack of imagination. Which is why I call myself unorthodox, because if I ever end up working that way, I'll quit marketing. I'll just go and do something else, because like
Mm.
how uninspired, like how can you, like, are you really excited by what you're doing? Because like I find mine really exciting. Like, I forget to eat on the day of campaigns. I forget to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm out all day. Like last time it was pissing rain, 12 hours, freezing cold, didn't care, forgot to eat, and at the end of the day I was like, whoa, that was a mint day. Like I didn't get that same feeling when I worked for other companies. I just didn't get that. This is amazing.
Yeah, I completely see that. And I do agree with you that I think like the majority of companies aren't creative at all. And then so when in an environment where, it's told that we're like hyper competitive, you don't have to be that creative in order to like outperform a lot of these guys when it comes to, building brand or building some sort of a story around what you're trying to do. As an example of I was in I am still in the NFT space. And when I was with my previous company, our whole mission was to try to create like more accessible NFTs, because like people weren't really doing that. And so I was thinking like, what's the most accessible way of buying anything? And I thought, a vending machine. So we created Europe's first ever NFT vending machine, which is like not been done before, right? So, and that created a ton of press, and it, you know, generated about $4,000 worth of revenue from people actually just buying them from the vending machine. We got loads of like partners involved, and it was like one of these things where, you know, a lot of people heard about us just through that. And it was like fairly easy to like pull off. Didn't actually require that much money, but it was just more of the idea and the story. So yeah, I completely agree with you there, and I think yeah, it's kind of taking a zooming out, and kind of like viewing things holistically. I think is the strength. But yeah, Lewis, loved having you on the podcast. How can people stay in touch with you and what you're doing?
To be honest, mate, I always say to people, LinkedIn is a great way to get hold of me. You found me that way. Um, I don't know. I check everything really. Like I've got this unhealthy obsession with checking all my socials constantly. It's like people think I don't see stuff. I see everything. I just, if someone's an asshole, I just won't reply. So like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, anything really with my name on it. YouTube. You can write a comment on my MySpace profile from when I was 16. I'll still find it. So yeah, just anyone wants to get hold of me, just Lewis Ellis, find me. But yeah, if anyone in marketing, or if anyone's growing a business and they want some help or advice on how to make themselves stand out, how to be unique, and just how not to fall foul of the same miserable, boring marketing as everyone else, just give me a shout. I'm more than happy to help. But yeah, man, that's it.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Lewis, for coming on the podcast. And yeah, I'm sure we'll see you very soon. Thank you.
Appreciate it, buddy.